Now, I may have mentioned last episode that I felt like I heavily related to Kokoro. That's dead. I no longer feel that emotion. Hello and welcome back to You and Idol Precure episode number 8. We officially have Kokoro in the mix, and our episode starts off a little goofy silly, but I like that we immediately start to kind of dig into the characters. One thing about Kokoro that we picked up on in the other episodes, but it seems that she hasn't lost as part of her personality, is she's a bit sassy. She's a bit kind of like bossy, but in a nice way. It's very unique, because I'm used to Precure characters, especially earlier seasons, having like blatantly terse and kind of mean characters who are incredibly blunt, and that's just who they are. Here, Kokoro is very, like, stern about certain things, but they're just like, hey, by the way, I don't like this. And then goes back to being very amicable. Like, it's not any deep cuts or any, like, deep banter that she has in the show. And I like that. It gives her a certain flavor of personality without it ever being, like, particularly harsh. Like, it just makes her a little bit more interesting, because I was kind of concerned that if she ended up just being a nice girl who's a fan, she might be too similar to Nana. But this allows her to be unique enough. She's different enough from Nana that the two of them are very distinguishable. And then the next thing that kind of happens is the naming that they do. So this, you might need to help me out here, chat. I might need some help in the comments below. Because to my understanding, when you refer to somebody with chan, that's like one of the nicest, like girliest, friendliest ways to refer to somebody. And if you have no honorifics whatsoever, which Kokoro in this scene is like, hey, by the way, just call me Kokoro, don't drop the chan. I, like, with the lack of a better word, isn't like having 0 honorifics like the most intimate way you can call somebody, like the closest you can be with another person? It's interesting because it doesn't really ever specify, like, I guess it's just a Japanese culture thing where you kind of understand why she doesn't want them to refer to her as Chan, but I'm not quite sure of the motivation. Like, I have a theory. Like, my going theory is it may be part of her fan thing, and it's like an idol thing where it's like, I don't want my idols to call me, I don't want them to be too friendly to me. I want there to be some level of reverence, because also dropping honorifics is a, like, showcase of level. Where it's like, oh, these girls are higher than me because they only refer to me, like, they can sit there and get away with not putting an honorific at all at the end of my name. So I don't know if it's her thinking that she's, like, not worthy of being their friends. Like, she's trying to be like, hey, you guys can't be this comfortable around me because you're, like, you know, you're idols, you're a big deal, and I'm just a fan. So I don't know if it's a fan thing. It also could be, a hierarchy thing in terms of, like, she's their underclassman. Kokoro is a year behind them, and she does refer both of them with senpai at the end of the name. She doesn't refer to them with chan either. So it may just be like, oh, I'm an underclassman. You guys shouldn't also be buddy-buddy with me because I'm beneath you. I'm a year younger than you. And, like, she's trying to reinforce this hierarchy. I don't know. They make this a point, like, multiple times in the episode, to the point where I was, like, hoping that by the end of it, she'd be comfortable enough with them to just let them get away with chan. But in the end, it doesn't, so maybe that's, like, a future thing. Because I still think it's kind of weird that she adds this level of standoffishness from the other girls. And I think that's a huge area that they could improve upon. Because, like, I mean, last episode I was asking, where do we go for Kokoro's development after this? Because we kind of went over a big hurdle in her introductory plot line. But her feeling comfortable enough to be besties with the girls, regardless of, like, place in the world, might be the next thing that they're going to tackle, and since it wasn't finished in this episode, maybe that's something that's going to be reoccurring for her particular character plotline. Which would be fine. That's basically the same thing that we did with Yuki in Wonderful Precure, where she had to grow to be more comfortable with the team. Obviously, situationally, it's very, very different, but that was a particular way that they handled her character over, like, the second half of the show. So maybe that's that? I don't know. Let me know. Let me know if you have any more insight on that particular situation. Then we have this goofy, silly moment where Utpa's being very extra, having a hard time not adhering to this naming convention, and gets a little chew from Puridun, where I'm like, oh man, it'd be real cool if there was a cure kiss. Anyways, that was a bad joke for those of you who know. Nonetheless, Kokoro goes on her little, like, rant of, I was seen as an idol. They posted me online. They're finding me, and everybody's like, yeah, I wonder who did that. what could be. But, like, Kokoro's like, this, that, and the other, these are the rules, this is how you be a fan. Like, really going in on it and taking it very seriously, and just, like, having this very, like, structural way of approaching being a fan, where obviously you have, like, Nana and Uta being like, we're just friends, we're just hanging out, we're just whatever. So I see the interesting seeds being sown for there being this growth in group synergy and seeing the gap that we currently have now. But all this leading to what was going to happen in this episode, which is we gotta fill Kokoro in on the rest of the team members. We sadly did not get a Pecorine moment. She just kind of like popped up. I think it's a little goofy silly that they're doing it at school, but I guess they didn't want to, like, you know, have to transition somewhere else and then transition again. But we get the introduction between these two, as we needed to. And then we get to see our collection. Now, I'm actually glad they did this, because I was like, do we only need to collect 6? Like, have we done it? We finished it, like, it's whole fill. I realize now that this is like a notebook, and that there are pages of these things. It's not just that we needed to collect 6 and we're done. Like, we still have more to go. We just finished page 1. Which, fair enough. All of this escalating into Kokoro requesting that they hang out so that she can study them more, and she needs to improve herself as an idol by shadowing these two. To which Uta takes advantage of the situation and says, let's have a sleepover! And impromptu causes a whole sleepover to occur. I love the dopey chibis for this season. I always love when we go, like, chibi mode for, like, silly, goofy moments and stuff. But, like, in this episode, they look particularly dopey. I love the way that Kokoro and Nana look here. It's just maximum dopiness. I adore it. I'm pretty attached. And nonetheless, we move into sleepover mode, at which both girls end up bringing a massive amount of stuff, to which Uta's like, why you brought so much? And we have the reveal that both of them have never done a sleepover before, and they both overpacked, which I love. Like, I think growing with a lot of Precure seasons, there are 3 core things with the characters that the writers have a very hard task of trying to balance in a series. You want characters to be individualistic and have an interesting storyline per each of the main characters, but you also want to make sure that there's team synergy and everybody feels like they work well together. And then you want to have interpersonal relationships between the team members. And I like here that we showcase Kokoro and Nana having this moment to just themselves. We already know that there's plenty of energy between Nana and Uta and Kokoro and Uta, but I'm so happy that they're putting these little moments of, like, Nana and Kokoro together so that we're reminded that it's a trio of characters that all have things that they connect with. And again, despite these characters having pretty different personalities, that they have this moment of connection where, like, both of them are amateurs when it comes to things like, in this case, kind of like friendship and then just hanging out with girls their own age and stuff. Seems to be something both of them are tackling new, whereas Uta, unsurprisingly, seems to be a seasoned veteran at friendship and hanging out with the girls. And overall, it's cute. I also think it's good balance for, like, Uta's a team leader, so her having more experience in that department is kind of nice. I feel like coming off Wonderful Precure, where we had somebody who had, like, no team experience as our previous leader, I like that we have this direction that there's a lot that Uta has that makes her a leader. And I like that the seasons flop. I'm not saying that I have any, like, distaste towards Cure Wonderful, but I do like, again, I love it when the seasons have varieties. It's nice to not see the same thing twice in a row. And as expected, Kokoro meets Tanaka, and he gives her, of course, the lipstick, which was necessary to do because we have to sell a product. But also, it's nice to see him do managerial things. Like, I genuinely do think he's, for the most part, going to be a pretty forgotten character. I don't think he's going to be as prominent as, like, again, I keep referring to Mari-chan from Delicious Party Precure. I don't think he's gonna be as prevalent, or even like just Satoru last season. I do not expect Tanaka to be at the forefront of the series, but I do like that they're like, by the way, he exists, in case you forgot. We remind you that he is technically part of the core team. Like, he technically speaking has more of a role than Kaito should in this series because he actually knows the girls' identities and is there to help them. So I'm glad that he's showing up and doing stuff. Because he did go out of his way to make sure that, like, Kyun also got included in the makeup campaign and got all of the details handled on behalf of the girls, which is nice. I'm pretty, like, I feel like he fills a hole. I feel like Tanaka essentially fills holes in the plot line that would have otherwise been something we would have to have a discussion about and have to do more. So I feel like his character is making more sense in the series as just kind of filling in the gaps of the story that other seasons would either, like, very sloppily handle or would just ignore. So I feel like he's actually fulfilling a very utilitarian role in the group, which I can appreciate. I wish he was a more relevant character, but at the same time, we don't want the cast is going to get chonky. We're going to have 5 main characters at a point. So maybe having lesser roles is okay. Nonetheless, we start to have this whole shadowing idol situation occur where Kokoro learns a little bit more about Nana. And I like that we have this kind of random moment where we find out that Nana is, like, got some kind of idiosyncrasies. It's feeling like we're going a little bit Cure Papaya with Nana, where on the surface level, she just kind of, like, looks like a pretty normal character, but she seems to have, like, these unique interests, and I think the next episode's gonna go even harder in that department. But seeing these small little character instances for her and other just, like, random facts to just fill up her character a little bit for having, again, more of a generic personality. I don't know if this is going to really set Nana apart from all the other, like, soft girls in the franchise, but it's a good start. It's also just nice to see her happy. We love to see some characters just to be genuinely happy. But speaking of happy, let's talk about me. I really love curry. One of my favorite dishes, and the second they zoomed in on this with the mackerel, I was like, I may have just eaten dinner before watching this episode, but I'm instantly hungry again. I have the ingredients minus the fish. I could just make myself curry, and I'm like, no, I don't need to eat too much food. But for where I am not a glutton, we do have Purirun, who eats all of the leftovers. Like, Purirun, calm down. He's a little chonky fairy. Moving on with our shadowing, Kokoro brings up the fact that she needs 1 million pictures of them in their cure form. So they all transform inside Uta's bedroom. And we take 1,000 photos. I don't love this part of the episode because, like, at first it's like teehee fun photos, but then there's all these, like, shy photos of poor Wink. Like, does Miss Ma'am have scopophobia? Leave her alone. Like, she's genuinely like, do we have to keep taking the photos? I'm like, Purirun, you already had a moment in this episode, and you've had several episodes where we keep bringing up the conversation of consent. Can you please be kinder to the team? Can you please? Like, poor Nana is getting borderline bullied. I feel like I'm watching an episode of Love Live at this point, and it's that whole bit with Umi. Like, can we calm down a little bit if the character is not comfortable? It doesn't help that Kokoro is also really, like, egging it on, like, yes, these photos are super necessary. Like, I gotta give it to, like, Purirun and Kokoro are just the antithesis of we took 2 of the most chaotic characters and they just make each other worse when you put them together. They enable their bad behavior. And then the girls ask, yo, why do we need this many photos, though? Like, what's the deal? What's what are we doing this for? And she's like, oh, it's for research. Like, it says it in the most suspicious way possible. I'm like, Miss Ma'am, don't be sussy potato. Don't be a sussy potato. What are you doing? What is happening? But she does reveal that this all was for her to get reference materials so that she could make these soft keychains, which the biggest thing that was throwing me off about this episode when I read the summaries is that technically speaking, they're using the word mascot to describe these. And, like, I don't know where in the translation it goes, because I wonder if, like, we call the fairy characters in the franchise on the English front as mascots. Like, Purirun is one of the mascots of the season along with Metatron. I guess maybe, like, I don't know, I guess maybe mascot means a lot of different things in this. Like, normally whenever these are listed for sale, they're listed as soft keychains. They're not listed as mascots. I don't know, this is one of those moments where Japanese be tripping me up again. I don't know what to tell you. But, like, yeah, even when they're sold, they're never, like, when I see the listings, they're never referred to as mascots. So I was confused because I was like, all the girls got mascots, but Purirun didn't get a mascot. And I was like, Purirun is the mascot. If we're making mascots, doesn't that just mean that we made a little plushie of Purirun? No, they made plushies of the girls and we're calling them mascots, and I guess that's just how the language is confusing to me. But none of that matters because we have one of the goofiest scenes. Like, I literally was laughing so hard when this happened because they're all sitting there in their Precure forms being loud. Just being so loud. And then, of course, Uta's mom, as happens, like, you know, this is probably the most sleepover accurate thing to happen, which is it's not a true sleepover unless the parents come up and knock on your door and they're like, can you be quiet? Can you please be quiet? That's the most sleepover experience ever. And the girls are like, we can't let her in because we're in our cure forms. I'm like, transform back then. I'm like, why don't you guys just transform back? It's not like you guys can't help it. Like, you were given enough time, and she's knocking on the door. I was like, I'd start transforming back. Like, why aren't you guys? But it does lead to the... I took this screenshot specifically because I want us to look at Puridoon. Puridoon, like, keeling over, being like, don't worry, guys. I know how to handle myself in this situation. Boop! So funny. So funny. I was Puridoon so funny. Anyways, back to the point of the show. We learned that Puridoon has these feelings that she has not been sharing with the class. She has this remorse where she's super excited that she got to help all of them become idols, but she also has the desire to be an idol herself, or to at least feel included in all of this, which is not something we typically get from fairy characters throughout the series, because usually they're just fairy characters. And, I mean, I don't know how much I'm not supposed to talk about this in my own review, but, like, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, we have a pretty strong idea. Even just from this scene alone, you could probably deduce that we will be having some mid-season cures, and our mid-season cures might be people we already know. So this definitely, I think, if at no other point, like if we had not already known from leaks and whatnot that there was going to be mid-season cures and who those mid-season cures were going to be, even if that wasn't there, I think a scene like this where Puridoon is like, I wish I had a little soft keychain plushie. It's like, oh, she wants to be a cure. She wants to be one of us. Like, I can see the seeds being sown here. Like, I'm picking up. And luckily for Puridoon, in terms of what we've seen with the materials, as I mentioned in episodes before, Puridoon has been confirmed to be a girl, so she actually has a chance of being a cure. Unlike other people who had very strong desires to be cures and were unfortunately boys. But also, should we just get this moment where she's sad and like, I wanna be where the people are? Like, alright, Puridoon, I like this development. You've been a little chaos demon most of the time that we see you. But to see her have, like, this range of emotion and range of desires, I think is adding to her character in an excellent way. Especially since we know it's going to be a hot minute before this develops any further. I like the pacing. Now, I may have mentioned last episode that I felt like I heavily related to Kokoro. That's dead. I no longer feel that emotion. This girl got up really early in the morning to run. I've never related less to a character in my life. Crazy. And then Puridoon also got up early? Crazy. Neither of these individuals are relatable. In fact, I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted by the early hours at which they thought they could get up and function normally. All that to say, this just kind of whirlwinds into our boss fight of the episode, which, mind you, man, you gotta fight the enemy this early in the morning? Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. But yeah, we have a random runner girl. She gets turned into the monster of the week. We gotta stop her, save the day. Kyun decide to run while everybody else is still asleep, so it's a good excuse for why there's this solo battling occurring here. And we get to see a little bit more of just Kyun fighting. And there's a little bit of fun animation going on here. And then it gets kind of like less good. But what we do get good is good. We once again have our magical red lines, this time in the form of shoelaces, preventing our cures from fighting. Very a la classic Precure. Kyun uses her ability to shred it so that we can all like get together and fight together. And it's nice that we see this progress of her fighting alone and then having the empowerment of the other team members and just Puridoon as well help her work together and still allow her to finish off the monster by herself. And then in order to quell Puridoon's sadness, the girls work together to not only make a pouch to carry Puridoon around so she doesn't have to sit there and ragdoll every time someone's about to discover her. We also get a little outfit too that's... at first I was not sure what this poncho was when I saw the intro, but they do explain that it's to match their outfits, and I was like, oh, I get it. I see it now. That's really cute. I think it's super adorable. I'm glad to see it. This is also just so they can shill the merch, as one does. I found it delightful, and she's happy. I kind of thought they were just gonna make her a plushie keychain, and they didn't. They just did all of this instead. But I'm not gonna complain, because if I was Puridoon, I'd be happy, because she didn't get sewed one thing, she got sewed two. So, shout out to getting 2 instead of 1. Anyways, this is a nice kind of transitional episode that I think did, for what wasn't like a crazy eventful episode, I think it's already setting up a lot of important things for later and showcasing the direction the series is going to move in. And we're gonna have another goofy, silly episode with Nana next week. And then hopefully in sometime in April, we're gonna figure out where in the world Metadon is. But at this point, we might have to rename her Carmen Sandiego, because where in the world is that girl? Anyways, I will see you next time. Bye-bye!